Hey everyone, Laurel, Minnesota Zone 5A. We had the 2 trees taken out last week, and as you can see, we got some snow. Yesterday, where I am, it was about 3 to 4 inches. But that was a small snowstorm. We have a big one coming starting tonight and really picking up tomorrow. It's going to snow pretty heavily all day, and then it'll warm up and will turn into rain through Tuesday. Right now it's Saturday, so nobody's looking forward to that, but we do need the moisture. It's pretty warm. Well, it's lower than average, I guess. It's high 30s, I think, right now, or mid 30s, so the snow is melting pretty fast, which I am glad we are getting the moisture. We do really need it. We've got the crocuses over here did fine with the snow. They're pretty hardy. They've been blooming for a week or two now. And then we have these purple, I don't remember what these called, if these are scilla or what they are. Pretty little purple blooms down here as well. And I think that these are, are the native tulips coming up. I like them better because they're small and they open wide open in the sun. So they're just really bright and cheerful. Those are yellow blooms. But I don't like tulip foliage, the big, huge leaves on like your classic tulips, what you think of when you think of a tulip. Those are kind of skinny leaves and small. So I don't mind leaving them up for a while until they die back versus the big, huge, wide tulip leaves, which are pretty when they're fresh, but in order to recharge the bulb, you have to let them die back all the way, and they just look ugly to me anyways. But that's my opinion. But I mean, I love tulip blooms. They are beautiful. Except here, the squirrels, you can see the stump here. Squirrels just kind of tend to bite half of my blooms off and leave them shredded on the ground. So it's not even really worth planting for me. This is the other stump over here. We've discovered that I think the feral cat, was pregnant again, female cat, and we've seen her walk over here and slip under that garden cart there. So we think that's on top of a pile of grass, which is like just loose grass that I've pulled out as I create new garden beds. So probably a cozy nest for her. But I mean, she'll eventually have to move because I'm going to need that spot or that cart, both of those. So we'll see. They're going to come later and grind out these 2 stumps along with, like, these are huge roots in the lawn that are sticking up here under the snow. And they said that they'll grind those surface roots down as well. When they were amazingly fast. They worked so fast and they cleaned up really, really well. But they were walking through this garden bed, which is generally fine because things are still asleep. But I just put some of the plants that got kind of beat up. I put these are actually like little baskets from Dollar Tree, I think. Little wire baskets. And I just put them upside down just as a little shield, just in case. I also don't want any critters nibbling on them while they're more vulnerable. So hopefully they don't have to, well, I'll ask them not to grind anything that's close to the garden beds, but I don't think that they will. So in the place, I'm trying to figure out what exactly I want to do. I'll be planting at least 3 trees, maybe more, trees/shrubs. Definitely want some more evergreen. It's a big change. We'll have to see what it is. I kind of have to wait to see, I guess, midsummer what the light conditions are. These are all pretty much from like that blank spot. Now you can see the little bloom stalks of the hosta sticking through the snow. This is a mum, and then those are echinacea that are in not full sun, but enough sun for them to do well, at least 6 hours. And then beyond here was all shaded in the heat of the afternoon. It all got morning sun. But now there's a big gap where those 2 tree canopies were. So I just have to see what it's going to be this summer. I definitely want to plant some kind of flowering tree. Not a huge tree, though. I think I just want a small one because it's a small yard. Maybe 20, 25 feet tall at the most at maturity. And then at least a few evergreens to kind of be a screen, but also a backdrop. And just have something to look at in the winter, some winter interest as well over here. So that's the plan. Just have to think about it, see what the light conditions are going to be like, and go from there. Snow does not hurt your spring bulbs. Those are daffodils down there. Oh no, those are allium and some daffodils, actually, I think, mixed in. Snow is insulating. So it's better to have snow than cold air, for sure. But they're not bothered. They're hardy in this climate, and this is part of the deal. So I wasn't worried about the snow at all. More allium. These are getting pretty big. Oh! A tulip. My first bloom. We'll see. I think these were the squirrels' favorite food last year, the tulips that are over here mixed with the allium. So I guess we'll see if I even get to see a bloom in the end. There's another little bloom in there. All right, well, spring is on the way. And this is where we moved that table to get it out of the way. It was sitting under the trees. Or not table, I guess 2 tables and the chaise lounge. Still no action on the garlic in this raised bed. So just have to wait and see. Little sprouts on the backup garlic in the ground here. So I will have garlic at least, even if it doesn't sprout in the raised bed. I did find, so what I will probably plant next year is a lot of the German extra hardy, because that stored the longest for me this winter. Just in the basement. I don't have a root cellar or anything like that. And then I'll plant a little bit of the other kinds, but I'm going to go all in on the German extra hardy just because it stored the longest and stayed fresh. A lot of it was going bad, so I whatchamacallit? I want to say unwrapped the cloves. That's not what I mean, but I froze whole cloves of garlic to preserve the rest. And then I'm eating from the fresh stuff as well. These are all sprouting over here, just under their little blanket now. Much needed moisture. Something like 70% of Minnesota, or 75% of Minnesota is in drought conditions this year. So we've had maybe a foot of snow total the whole winter, when, at least in the Twin Cities area where I am, we average 55 inches a year. So that's pretty low. We did get some rain in the fall and in December, but all the other chances of rain that we've had, even during this unseasonably warm winter, it's all just dissipated. Didn't actually end up happening, so that's been a bummer. Mississippi River is super low, or it was when I drove over it last weekend. I just love those crocuses. They're so cheerful. I have another patch over on this side. hydrangeas, I've kind of checked all the stems for life. It's still a little early where they're not going to bud just yet. Hydrangeas don't bud out super early, but they're all green. You know, if you scratch away the edge of the stem, you can see if it's alive or dead. This shrub, it's actually in my neighbor's yard, but most of it is hanging over my yard. It's a native. It's a red-berried elderberry, native variety. You can see it's already like leafing out. It has these pretty leaves and all of those big berries. It has, well, they look like berries now, but they're the blooms. That's what I'm trying to say. Big white disc blooms. It's like the first thing to bloom in the spring and leaf out. And then the blooms turn into bright red berries that the birds love. And then it's just this beautiful leafy shrub shading my bench here. You can see the birds have been visiting the bench. But this is also going to have to move the cat food down there because I sit on this bench in the summer. I suppose we can leave it, just not when it's wet outside. Honeysuckle is also all budded up here. All along the stems. So spring is coming. I just love it. I've said this before. I just love the way sedum looks. All its little rosettes coming up there. I'm curious if this grass is actually live because there is some green in there. It's an annual, but I think the rush grass, there are varieties that are hardy here, so I'm not sure. Lamb's ear, I still haven't cleaned this up and won't until sprouts on the lady's mantle. And this is the other patch of crocus over here. This one might have got weighed down a little bit more by the snow, but they've been blooming for a while too. These are the hardiest tulips, and the squirrels don't seem to bother these as much. They are also really tall, the flower stalks, so maybe they just can't quite reach them. It's also what I have along the side of the house, and then I have a small patch of them in the back garden against the fence too. I've got some phlox coming up. I have creeping Jenny in here, which can take over, but usually in the spring, well, a few times a year, it kind of spreads, it like sends tendrils out, and everywhere these little, I call them tendrils, I don't know, but everywhere they touch, they root in. And so I'll pull it up. That's how I've been able to control it. You can see everywhere the stem touches, it forms roots. So I'll go through here with a trowel and kind of dig it out. That's the way I control it. It hasn't gotten out of control in the first place. So I'll cut this patch back by about half and pull it out from anywhere it's kind of encroaching on other plants. It's really pretty. I love the bright pop of color, but I haven't seen it choke anything out to this point, but I don't know if it would. Maybe it's possible. I'm not sure. I just don't take the chance. Like, this is a phlox coming up, and actually I'm probably going to transplant that or give it away, but I'll take all of the creeping Jenny out of there so I can stay on it and it doesn't get out of control. Excuse me. Little pile of snow. And perennials look about the same, the overwintered stuff. There's a sprout here, a little leaf coming up here on this echinacea. Still no sign of life on the rudbeckia. That one can be late to emerge though. Everything else is looking pretty good. And my geraniums, you can kind of see them through the window. Those stayed in the house all winter, and they're doing okay. They're filling back out quite a lot now that they're out in the sun. Hello. We'll see maybe what's going on in the front yard. I think some of the crocuses bloomed up front here too. This looks kind of neat. Drips from the roof. Snow melting off the roof. Yeah, we've got crocuses down here, these cheerful yellow guys. They did fine in the snow. Same thing over here. Those didn't bloom as prolifically this year. Oh, a few blooms coming up on these too. So, oh yeah, we got a couple of blooms peeking out of the snow over here. They're not open. It's pretty chilly though. But, take a peek. This is, you can see this garden is really full shade from the house all year round. So it's the last snow to melt. I had all the big logs sitting out on the curb for them to pick up later. I worked from home the day that they were here. And so I stole this one because it looked kind of cool. And I figured I can use it as a plant stand somewhere. But they hauled everything else off. They said they were going to drop some chips for me at some point, some wood chips, but I don't know. We'll see. And this barberry, I see a lot of buds on this barberry here. Yeah, pretty full of buds coming out. And then all the daffodils and tulips. I did clean up. These were hollyhocks, and it's a bunch of self-seeded stuff. Hollyhock, Verbena bonariensis. I have balsam, like Impatiens balsamina. In the center here, that self-seeds like crazy. But they're these chunky, fat little seedlings that are really easy to pull up if they're in spots where you don't like them. And down here, there were more hollyhocks and foxgloves that I kind of cleaned up. Spread all the seeds around. Tons of hollyhock seeds here on the ground. So we'll see what happens. So far, they've been reseeding themselves. So anyway, maybe I'll take you on the porch and give you a quick little seedling update too. Okay, seedling update here on the porch. I propped up the lights a little bit. I have some of my leaves here are getting a little crispy. I'm trying to figure out what it was. These soil hasn't been overly moist or overly dry. Hasn't gotten particularly hot in here, and the more days that it gets warm, I've been taking them off the heat mats. I'm kind of wondering if it's an issue of once the plants get a little bit bigger, the lights are a little bit too close to the leaves. So I tried propping them up just to see. Shallots are doing good. I did sow more shallots in this tray that's pretty light. I'm trying to use up older seed packets. Once they get to 2 years old or more, they have very poor germination. So I'm just trying to sow them pretty thick because I like to have extra. I did bump up some of the Rudbeckia and the bigger geranium seedlings. They're doing great. And this is what I can't figure, is their leaves don't seem to be bothered by the lights at all, but maybe they're just tougher or something. I don't know. The pepper seedlings are not dying, but some of the cotyledon leaves got real crispy. You can see they're kind of curling up. That can be a watering issue, like a soil moisture issue. But with all my seedlings, I kind of treat them the same way. I kept it evenly moist. Peppers, once they got a little bit bigger, like these newer varieties, sprouted first. So I took off the humidity dome. That could be an issue too. I don't know if maybe the leaves got too close to the humidity dome before I did that, because they really shot up fast. I do let the soil dry out slightly, not all the way, but I let it get a little bit drier in between waterings on the peppers because they don't like, once they're up, you have to be careful they don't dampen off, which is a fungal issue that can kill them. But they also don't need to be wet all the time. They like to dry out a little bit, peppers do. So I'm monitoring. I did switch the light to this Fairy Morse one because it's not as strong and sits up a little bit higher. And then they just obviously get natural sunlight through the window for a good chunk of the day. So we'll see how they do. Most of them, this is the one that's furthest ahead, and you can see the tips of its first true leaves got a little crispy too, which is why I'm kind of thinking it was either a light issue and it's just too close to the lights, or I left the humidity dome on a day or two too long and they got too close to that. But we shall see. The true leaves coming out on all the other ones look healthy. I did sow some extras of a couple just to see if I could get backups. Otherwise, they're looking pretty good. And then the Gomphrena back here had very good germination on those as well. So I'll have plenty of all of the varieties of Gomphrena. End up giving a bunch of those away too. But I wasn't sure how those would germinate because the seeds are a few years old, but apparently they do great. So yeah, that's my little seedling update. A lot of things I direct sow, a lot of vegetables, cucumbers, carrots, broccoli, cabbage, beans and peas I direct sow outside when it's warm enough. Peas can go in before your last frost date. Beans, they'll take off once it gets warm and then they grow like crazy. Hence Jack and the Beanstalk fable. But so those won't go out till May, maybe end of April. And then other flowers that I do like marigolds, zinnias, cosmos, I'll do those once it's warm enough for them to be outside most of the day. Because they're not really going to take off. I don't like to up pot them. I want them to go straight from their seedling trays into the ground because they don't like being transplanted. So those I will probably wait until early May to sow as well. And they can go between the house or the porch and the driveway, but most of the time they'll be spent on the driveway outside. Things that I will plant, I have canna rhizomes, caladiums, and elephant ear corms inside, or that I've been storing over the winter, or that I bought, and dahlias as well. I will probably get those planted, potted up in mid-April. Our last frost date here is somewhere between May 5th and May 10th. So mid-April, early to mid-April, I'll get those potted up. And I keep them in tubs, like Rubbermaid tubs, so that I can bring them in and out or cover them. That's kind of my secret when you get stuff started, or what I like to do, so that I can start those tropical plants early enough to get some growth on them before I plant them. I'll pot them up and then just put the pots in a Rubbermaid bin, like a clear Rubbermaid bin. And then depending on what the forecast is, if it's going to get really cold, I can bring them, just pop the Rubbermaid bin inside here on the porch, or put the cover on it if it's going to get chilly, but not like freezing cold. So that's kind of my timeline. But also, obviously, I work full time, so it's whenever I have the chance to get to it, I do those things too. So that's the plan. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe.